Hi, I'm here to share with you all a good book that I read. It's called The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. It was recommended to me by one of my seniors at work, and I found it very interesting. So I wanted to share it with you all. I wrote a quick review. Here's the summary. So overall, it looks all common sense. It's all about how does one improve their overall team's throughput, overall team performance, and ideas around how to identify bottlenecks or issues, how to put in right measurements, and also final thoughts around how to improve and scale your team. So it helps you become a good manager overall if you apply these common sense principles that are outlined in the book. Overall, I find the book to be very good. I recommend it to everyone who's interested improving their team output. Um, so the first set of things that a manager does is um, define a good goal and a clear goal for the team, a goal that is inspiring um, for the team to work on. It could be any problem that you're solving, right? So in any company, there is a problem or an inventory or a goal that a company is trying to solve, and there are a set of people, and there's a manager involved who manages um, the work so that the problems are solved and solutions are delivered, or inventory is used to create final products and make money. So there's an input, there are a set of people involved, and there's an output. Um, there are a set of people involved because one person can't do the work. If one person could do all the work, then there's no need for a team, there's no need for a manager. So this only applies when you have a team of people working together. The principles outlined in this book only applies then. It's when there are connected set of events, like person one has to finish something before person two can actually pick up, and so on and so forth. So when this happens, there are dependencies between these people, and when there are dependencies, there's variances in how long this person can take to finish the job, and everyone has different capacity, velocity, everyone has different time schedule, someone has different time vacations, someone can get sick at a certain period of time, someone might not have the skills. So there's variables for every person. So when you have a team, you're trying to tackle a problem that's much bigger than what you can solve individually. You're bound to have dependent events where everyone can take different variable amount of time to finish a problem. So when there are problems, there's going to be bottlenecks, like one person can finish this work, um, but the second person is just overwhelmed with what that person can do. So the first thing that this book recommends a good manager do is define a clear goal so that everyone in the team is actually working on the right set of problems. So they're all productive. They're not working on things that are not productive. So that's the first thing. Like, you need to have a vision, a mission on how your goal aligns with the company goals, how your company goals aligns hopefully with the nation's goal, and so on. That inspires. Having done that, having a team, you're bound to have bottlenecks that are the slowest or the weakest link in the chain. These are the things that the manager needs to identify as the second step, which is identify where are the bottlenecks to finish arriving to a solution or finishing a product that can be shipped or sold, or actually getting the product sold, right? So these bottlenecks are bound to be there, and there are things that this book recommends that a manager do so that these bottlenecks can be removed or can be improved, because at the end of it, if you improve the bottleneck, that's when overall team output will increase. So the key things that this book has to offer is the theory of constraints is equal to bottleneck. So basically saying identify those bottlenecks, get your best people working on those bottlenecks, find out if you could delegate or offload all the work that the non-bottleneck resources can work on, so that the bottleneck items are worked on only by the best of the people and who who can just do that. Like if there are more people who could work on the bottleneck, then you're elevating the bottleneck. Sorry. So also try to prioritize what work the bottleneck does so that you can make sure that the most important thing is done first. So it talks a lot about bottlenecks and how do you improve or elevate the bottlenecks. And there's always going to be resistance to change when the manager makes some changes, like how do we improve the bottlenecks, how do we change tasks as to who works on what. When those changes come in, it's the manager's responsibility to make sure that those changes are communicated correctly in terms of why those changes will improve the bottleneck or overall team capacity. So it talks a lot about bottlenecks and how do we improve it. The key things being identifying the right ones, measuring the bottlenecks correctly, because sometimes not the right bottlenecks are identified and not the right things are being fixed. And also making sure that if there are certain bottleneck people or certain bottleneck machines, that they are identified and used only for those items and not for non-bottleneck works, so that everyone else in the team helps with that. And when the manager tries to identify those bottlenecks, there's bound to be resistance to change, and now it's the manager's responsibility to make sure those changes are communicated. There'll be different levels of change resistance. One would be like resistance which have a common theme of not being in control, like I need a better delivery or a lead time for my work, etc. There are certain things that are outside a person's control or outside control of the team. So those are the kind of issues that will be raised when you come up with a change. Second change would be they would not believe that a change that you're trying to introduce would actually solve it. That's when you have to explain the change. It's again the manager's responsibility to explain why the change is being proposed. Then some sort of arguments will come. Yes, this would work, but yes, but conditions, like which would have negative impressions on the team. It's again the manager's responsibility to find out how they can improve these reasonings. And there might be doubts about collaboration, like team members can say, I really hope that person works with me well, or uh, they would raise these concerns or these resistance to change. And sometimes they would even raise obstacles so that the change that you're trying to introduce doesn't work. So it's the manager's responsibility to not only identify the goal, identify the bottlenecks, expect that there's going to be changes or resistance in the bottlenecks, that and there are different levels of these resistance. The manager's responsibility to make sure that he's aware of those resistance and helping the team navigate through those resistance and make the changes so that better outcome can be achieved in the team. So those are some level of resistances, some different types of how to use the bottlenecks well that's shared. And there are different things that a good manager would do. It would, again, to summarize, identify the core problem. The good manager would identify the core problem. He would make the right changes that improves the overall team output or capacity. Probably he or she would seek external help to improve the team bottlenecks, but eventually figure out a way to identify the core issues on their own and also be self-dependent. And a good manager would take the team from firefighting all the time to dealing with the fires effectively, to effective planning, to effectively scaling up the team, and eventually also maintaining the optimal flow of the team. There are various things that I learned out of this book. I highly recommend reading it, but the key things for me were that I'm going to start defining the vision and mission for my team even more articulate than what was before based on some of the guidance in the book. I would actually start measuring the flow and capacity within my team's velocity even more in detail. And I would not optimize the non-bottlenecks, which I used to just because they were free. I'd actually optimize on the bottlenecks. And I'd also use these principles for the goal, not just in my work, but also on my health, family, and social responsibilities. So overall, I find this book really good. I'd recommend it 10 on 10. Really good principles, all common sense, but it helped me highlight some of these actions that I would have never realized I need to take. All right, have a good time reading this book.